So why should you be excited about a 1988 arcade game called Haunted Castle? Well, because it's a Castlevania game. The timeline of the Castlevania games can get a little confusing when you throw in the Japanese games as well, but basically this one came out shortly after Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. Konami's arcade development team wanted a gothic horror game, and so what better series to get involved with than the huge success that was Castlevania. And as far as making an arcade equivalent of a classic NES and Famicom title, they did a pretty good job. All that makes Castlevania what it is here, with a nice blend of action and horror, classic monsters like skeletons, mummies, Frankenstein's monster. Once again, you collect hearts, which work as ammunition for whatever sub-weapon you've got equipped, anything from a boomerang to a pocket watch that stops time. All of these sub-weapons can have their uses, and they're not dropped randomly. The same enemy will always drop the same item each time you play the game, so it's kind of about learning who drops what and then deciding what you want to have equipped for each part. Then of course making sure you're quick enough to pick it up before it disappears. However, originally being an arcade game, it does have a few of those annoying arcade traits, like for example, it does include a few insta-kill moments which just come across as kind of cheap. At home it's not too bad, you can just try again, but in an arcade when another attempt is going to cost you another quarter, I imagine it can get pretty frustrating. Thankfully I did know a little bit about the game before starting it up thanks to watching the coverage of it over on Cinemassacre, which helped me to avoid some of the cheaper deaths.
He's walking like he's got a shit.
He does look like that, like he's...
Or that he's got a puke. Oh, I gotta hurry up, get to the toilet, get to the toilet.
So I knew a bit about what I was getting into beforehand, plus picked up a few little tricks to help me out, like ducking after killing the skeletons on stage 2, and to jump along the entire length of the bridge on stage 6, so thanks to them for helping me out a bit with this game.
Holy shit! Alright, so jumping's the key.
Of course, being on the PS4 meant I didn't have to use real quarters to play, plus it gives you infinite continues, which makes the game relatively easy to complete. And what helps even more is that each life you can press the start button up to 3 times to really boost your health, which is good for players who are just starting out and trying to familiarise themselves with the game without having to grind through the first levels over and over and over and over and over again. It helps you to develop your own strategy for completing it. I personally spent a good few hours learning each level and forming my own tactics for getting through each of the tricky bits, so eventually I could make a pretty flawless run. Each level's unique as you make your way up to Dracula's castle, with some pretty cool stuff to see along the way, especially when you first get inside. In fact, there's only one part that I really find annoying, and that's a certain boss that just kind of feels lazily done. I mean, take a look at the way Frankenstein's monster dies. He falls apart into a skeleton. Whereas this rock beast dies and it's kind of like the fight just stops and hey, you're on the next level somehow. He's got a cool design and everything, but the fight's just annoying as you have to wait for him to get close enough to hit him, which isn't ideal when you're on the clock. Like all of the PS4's arcade archive games, this one has all the different options to tweak the gameplay slightly, like by setting the difficulty or changing whether you can have continues or not. Plus it's got the American, the Japanese and the European versions of the game, although there isn't much difference between the 3. And it's got a high score mode as well as a caravan mode, which puts 5 minutes on the clock and lets you try to get as high a score as possible within that time. I've got to say, this is my favourite arcade archive game to date, probably because I'm such a Castlevania fan. It feels more like a full console campaign rather than just another arcade game. Probably it will only take you around half an hour to complete, but it does have some memorable moments, and when that Castlevania theme kicks in, I don't know, you get a mix of nostalgia and excitement that you're finally going to get to kill Dracula again. Although I will say that the final boss fight is disappointingly easy, which is a shame, nothing like it is in the NES games, and no, that's not just because I'm using the Holy Cross. He's just as easy with just the whip. Anyway, if you're a fan of the series or you fancy a chance of playing a Castlevania game on the PS4, then hey, why not check out Haunted Castle? And if you do, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game or on this video, and until next time, thanks for watching.